Joining us today is TFBM Chair, Secretary Eduardo Del Rosario. Before I give you Secretary Del Rosario, let me give you some updates on the recent engagements of Task Force Bangon Marawi. We start with a positive note on the progress of our rehabilitation efforts. TFBM continues to provide basic services to improve the lives of affected residents of Marawi and its neighboring municipalities. We are now implementing the Bangon Marawi Comprehensive Recovery and Rehabilitation Plan with the convergence of government line agencies, local governments, and international organizations. The task force reiterates the call of the government, kasama ninyo kami sa muling pagbangon ng Marawi. This, however, requires that all TFBM member agencies are serious in providing services to the affected communities. To know more about these updates, let's watch this video.
The dynamic city of Marawi is home to gentle Meranaos, whose lives are attached to the scenic Lanao Lake. Marawi had been the bustling commercial center in Lanao del Sur until the ISIS-linked terror group broke its tranquility on May 23, 2017. More than 300,000 Marawi residents fled for their lives. The Department of Social Welfare and Development recorded 3,549 families, or 17,496 individuals, sought refuge in 67 evacuation centers in Region 10 and ARMM, while a total of 72,752 families, or 332,445 individuals, decided to stay with relatives and friends. 5 months after the Task Force Bangon Marawi, or TFBM, was created by President Rodrigo Duterte, through Administrative Order 3, the government forces were able to clear all roads leading to the main battle area. It was followed by the Kambalingan, a Maranao term for homecoming of about 34,076 families to 67 barangays in Marawi City, conducted from October 29, 2017 to March 26, 2018. Returning families were provided a Kambalingan package consisting of food assistance, hygiene kits, kitchen sets, and financial assistance. To signal the rehabilitation and recovery phase, the National Economic Development Authority was tasked to spearhead the formulation of the Bangon Marawi Comprehensive Rehabilitation and Recovery Program, or the BMC-RRP, particularly for areas outside Marawi's most affected area. The BMC-RRP was presented to President Rodrigo Duterte during the cabinet meeting on June 11, 2018, and was turned over by NEDA to the TFBM on August 16, 2018. This was prepared with the participation of various national government agencies, the city government of Marawi, the provincial government of Lanao del Sur, and the ARMM regional government. The BMC-RRP has 6 sectoral components, namely physical infrastructure, housing and settlement, local governance and peace building, social services, livelihood and business development, and land resource management. These sectors also correspond to the 6 subcommittees of the TFBM. A master plan was formulated separately for the most affected areas that require more detailed urban planning. It provides the design, costing, and timeframe for the reconstruction of activities. The Subcommittee on Reconstruction, headed by the Department of Public Works and Highways, started to repair the damaged public buildings, bridges, and roads. The Subcommittee on Housing, led by Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council, built thousands of temporary shelters for the displaced families. The Subcommittee for Peace and Order, chaired by the Department of the Interior and Local Government, has made sure that the peace and order and public services in Marawi City are restored and continued. The Subcommittee on Health and Social Welfare, headed by DSWD, made sure that the IDPs are given their basic needs. The Subcommittee on Business and Livelihood, led by Department of Trade and Industry, continues to guide and empower IDPs by providing them with livelihood training and assistance. And the Subcommittee on Land Resource Management, headed by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, continues its quest for a greener and land conflict-free Marawi. Before the actual reconstruction of infrastructures, debris management, including retrieval of unexploded ordnances and improvised explosive devices in the most affected areas, is being conducted and is targeted to be finished in 8 months. Once the most affected areas are cleared of debris, the construction of roads, utilities, school buildings, health facilities, central market, port facilities, and other public infrastructures will commence. The Department of Finance has estimated the rehabilitation of Marawi City, Butig, and Biagapo for over a 5-year period to cost the government 67.99 billion pesos. TFBM has been grateful to the international support for BMC RRP, amounting to 35.1 billion pesos in pledges. TFBM Chair and HUDCC Secretary Eduardo Del Rosario.
Kaya ang sabi po ng ating Presidente, I will see to it that Marawi will rise as a prosperous city again.
Thank you. Now back to our updates. TFBM continues to provide business and livelihood interventions for the Marawi residents through the implementation of the Kawiyagan, a Maranao term for livelihood or kabuhayan. Kawiyagan supports the recovery and redevelopment of various industries and the local economy in the conflict-affected city. Member agencies of TFBM, Subcommittee on Business and Livelihood, together with international humanitarian organizations, have once again gathered yesterday for the 7th Kawiyagan to continue helping the internally displaced persons get back on their feet through livelihood opportunities. TFBM and its partner humanitarian organizations remain steadfast in equipping residents of resources and capability while retooling the whole of nation approach through livelihood convergence interventions. This activity highlighted the synergy among TFBM member agencies. On international humanitarian efforts, displaced families in the city of Marawi continue to be provided by humanitarian recovery assistance. Recently, Australian Ambassador to the Philippines, Steve Robinson, arrived at the city and personally handed the Australian government's livelihood assistance to the community members of Sarimanok, 10th City. This is part of the Marawi Recovery Project being implemented by the Community and Family Services International, or CFSI, for the Urban Livelihood Assistance and the UN Food and Agriculture Organization for the Agricultural Livelihood Assistance. MRP is composed of psychosocial, livelihood, and protection components being carried out in 10 evacuation centers and transitory sites in the city, as well as selected communities in Ditsaan, Ramain, Marantao, and Piagapu. On nutrition support to IDPs, TFBM, in partnership with the World Food Program and the United States Agency for International Development Office of Food for Peace, USAID, and the provincial government of Lanao del Sur, Integrated Provincial Health Office, and the Marawi City Health Office, women and children from 22 towns of Lanao del Sur, including residents of Marawi City, will receive nutrition support. A ready-to-use food supplement assistance will be provided to more than 5,000 children, ages 6 to 23 months, and nearly 6,000 pregnant and lactating women across the province for over 6 months. To strengthen the partnership, a memorandum of understanding is signed to further implement the food security plan and the provincial nutrition action plan to address increasing risks of malnourishment. On public consultations, TFBM and its member agencies have initiated a 2-day public consultation dialogue on Marawi rehabilitation for the residents of the 22 barangays belonging to the most affected area. TFBM informed the residents on the ongoing efforts of the task force regarding rehabilitation and recovery program. On security, after returning to the folds of the law, former members of the Mauti IS group have formally undergone reintegration program to help them lead normal lives, from being combatants to productive citizens of Lanao del Sur. The Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Philippine National Police, together with the provincial government of Lanao del Sur and the United Nations Development Program, have initiated and institutionalized the launching of the reintegration program of about 135 Mauti IS returnees from different municipalities of Lanao del Sur. The AFP is encouraging other members of the Mauti IS to return to the government and work together for lasting peace. To gain access to quality education and health services, the different humanitarian organizations funded by the Australian Aid and in partnership with the Department of Education in Marawi City Schools Division under the new Ministry of Education of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao have committed to build a better world to young evacuees of Marawi City and help them recover from their harrowing experience during the siege. Making a Marawi child a peace hero is the current advocacy of the Pathways to Integrated and Inclusive Conflict-Sensitive Protection and Education for Children in Mindanao, a program and under Education Pathways to Peace in Mindanao. The ICO program is a consortium of different organizations and government agencies which aims to deliver psychosocial support intervention and provides other humanitarian responses, health, nutrition, and education support to armed conflict survivors. Now, that's all for our updates. I will now give the floor to Secretary Eduardo Del Rosario.
Thank you very much, Harold. Members of the international and local media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Actually, with regard to the Task Force Bangon Marawi updates, everything was contained already in the video presentation. But I would just like to restate that rehabilitation of Marawi City will take about 3 to 4 years, and we expect that it will be completed by December of 2021. We have been saying this to the general public, especially to the residents of Marawi City, that our timetable for completion will be within the term of President Rodrigo Duterte. And we are on target with respect to our timetable. Understandably, in any calamity, whether it be man-made or natural, the early recovery activities will take about 6 months to 1 year. And that's exactly what happened in Marawi City. The early recovery interventions on relief assistance, livelihood, health and sanitation, education, peace building, shelter, and support were all undertaken in 6 months to 1 year period. And the actual recovery will commence a year after. It will interlap. That's why as early as October 30 of 2018, we had the groundbreaking ceremony in the rehabilitation of the most affected area. And in the rehabilitation, what is very important are 2 activities. That's the clearing of the unexploded explosives and ordnances and the debris management. So it has been ongoing, and the clearing of unexploded explosives and ordnances will be completed within the year, August 30 of 2019. While the road construction will commence by July of 2019, and debris clearing will be completed not later than September of the year. So, there were some articles, with due respect to the Washington Post, it stated that Marawi City is a ghost town. I don't accept it. If you are referring to the 250-hectare most devastated, the most affected area, you may be right. But that's only 250 hectares. The Marawi City is 8,000 hectares, and it's just 0.08% of the total hectareage in Marawi City. And understandably, the most affected area was devastated, 90 to 95% devastated. And as I have stated, the challenge would be in the clearing of unexploded explosives and ordnances. And it will take until August 30. We could not allow residents to come back, although they desire to go back there as early as this year and rebuild their houses because of safety considerations. There are still 49 big bombs ranging from 500 pounds, 260 pounds, and 120 pounds out of 70 big bombs. And fortunately, because of the efforts of our Armed Forces of the Philippines and the private contractor looking for these bombs, 4 were located and unearthed just last week. So we are now down to 44 by using modern technology in pinpointing, locating these unexploded big bombs. And as early as July of the year, in cleared areas, we will allow residents to repair their houses. Those whose houses were slightly damaged, we will allow them to rebuild, provided they will secure building permit or repair permit from the city government. And that is a big challenge because the Subcommittee on Land Resource Management has to check more than 13,000 titles and house and lot owners to ensure that the coordinates of the titles and the claimants are the real owners of these lots and the house and lot they were claiming. As of now, about 10,000 units, house and lots were already completed, and we discovered that most titles have wrong coordinates. If in the title, the lot location is here, but on the actual site where the house and lot was constructed, it was off-center or off-tangent. So we have to correct all this so that when we allow them to go back to their respective houses, house and lot, or lots and claim ownership, it will now be rightfully placed in the individual titles. And most of the residents do not have titles. So we have to fix that also. And we are talking about 13,000 plus lots and house and lots. And with regards to our intervention this coming week, April 6 and 7, we are going to start giving, DSWD will start giving the livelihood and transitional package of assistance to all residents of Marawi City. So as of now, based on our profiling, there are 32,000 qualified residents. So all these 32,000 residents will be given 20,000 pesos livelihood assistance, and those residing in the most affected area will be given additional 53,000 assistance by DSWD. And this will commence first week of April. Actually, April 6, the giving of this assistance will be started by DSWD. And there have been hearing some critics that we are somewhat delayed in the rehabilitation of Marawi City. With regards to our timetable of completion, there is no delay. So I would like to clarify that we are still confident that by December of 2021, the rehabilitation of Marawi City will be almost complete. So with that, I'm now ready for some Q&A. If the Washington Post to give the first answer, I would be glad to answer the representative.
Thank you very much, Secretary Del Rosario. And of course, before Regine gives her question, I'd like to acknowledge our friends from the press. Thank you so much for taking the time to come over here. Not only the press in the Philippines, but also our friends from the international media. So thank you very much. You may use the microphone here and you may state your name and your media firm. And we begin with Regine, please.
Hi, sir. Thank you for having me at the press con today. Yes, and we've taken note of your comments with regards to our article now, and we'd like to push the discussion forward. No, I'd like to ask categorically, who is the contractor right now in charge of the debris clearing and the bomb clearing also in Marawi?
The one awarded by the National Housing Authority is the Ed Marie Construction, and it subcontracted a company, Aero 360, I think, who will do the clearing of unexploded explosives and ordnances in direct coordination with the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
I see. So, sir, I'm wondering, because in January, there was an announcement that the contract had been awarded to CJI, MAMSAR, and to Green Asia. But I did notice that in later releases, naging Ed Marie po. So, ano po yung naging reason ng contract change?
I thought you cannot understand Tagalog. You can speak Tagalog pala. At any rate, it was the call of the National Housing Authority, because initially these three companies, CJI, MAMSAR, and Green Asia, had a joint venture agreement. But since they could not settle their differences, the NHA gave them instruction to settle their own problems and gave a deadline to settle. Because one would like to take the leadership, the other one would like to take the leadership. So if we will have a joint venture agreement with three companies, and those three companies will have a problem on their own, it would have an adverse impact in the rehabilitation of Marawi City. So when the National Housing Authority gave them a deadline to settle their differences, and they were not able to settle their differences, the NHA was forced to terminate the negotiation with those three.
All right. So, Secretary, another complaint that we saw on a Facebook post from some Maranao citizens was that Ed Marie had been one of the 20 developers that the Housing Authority back in 2018 terminated contracts with because of supposed non-compliant standards sa Yolanda Housing naman po. So how would you respond po to those complaints from Maranao residents about Ed Marie?
Actually, this is a legal issue. There were about 20 companies who were told by the National Housing Authority to show cause as to whether they should be terminated with their contracts in Yolanda projects. And Ed Marie satisfied that show cause demand of the National Housing Authority. So they were not blacklisted and in any manner. So Ed Marie, as I was told, is a AAA large B in both horizontal and vertical projects. The record of Ed Marie is excellent, as told to me by the National Housing Authority, and it is based on records.
Okay. And siguro last na rin po, sir, for now. You mentioned that there's a some subcontracted company, Aero, and that they'll be working in league with the AFP po, di ba? So ano po yung qualifications ng Aero? And another thing that we're curious about po is kung meron na pong contracted company, what is going to be the role of the AFP now, since there were all this new equipment that came in that also cost around 1 billion, no? And who will man this new equipment?
The Aero was subcontracted by Edmarie because of their expertise in locating, or because of their latest technology. And the Armed Forces of the Philippines is there to ensure that what Aero is doing will be in accordance with the standard protocol. So it's a check and balance mechanism.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Regine. Next we'll have Sunshine Media, MJ, and Raya, ABS-CBN.
Hey, sir. Hey, sir. Good morning. As the budget impasse has come to a close, may we know how much would be the budget for the task force for this year and those projects that will be pushed through using the national fund?
The total budget for Marawi Rehabilitation is about 60 billion.
This year, sir?
In totality. 13 billion for the most affected area and 47 billion outside the most affected area. And that will support all the activities and PPAs of the subcommittees, from education, health and sanitation, peace building, and so forth. So you will notice that the rehabilitation of the most affected area is just 13 billion. Before, we receive unsolicited proposals from 5 big companies, 4 from China and 1 from Malaysia, ranging from 30 billion to 22 billion. And surprisingly, after a series of negotiations, we found out that the 32 billion was so exaggerated. And now, we are down to 13 billion. So, there is something good that happened because of this series of negotiations. If we awarded the 32 billion to the first group that was selected by the technical working group, and now that we have 13 billion only, the government was able to save 19 billion because of the meticulous process that we have undertaken.
Linawin ko lang, sir, this year, magkano ang budget sa
I don't
task
have
force?
the record, but that's the
Pero tumaas, sir.
totality.
Tumaas yung budget. May pagbabago ba?
I think it was lowered.
Lowered.
Because initially it's about, if I remember right, it was 67 billion. So it went down to 60 because of the negotiation and the finalization of the CRRP that was undertaken by NEDA.
Categorically speaking, ilang percent na po tayo ngayon sa at least magkaroon man background yung ating mga kababayan kung saan na tayo ngayon sa ating rehabilitation efforts?
With regards to the rehabilitation of the most affected area, as I have said, the challenges would be 2. The clearing of unexploded ordinances. We have found already 4,500 IEDs, the mortars, the 40-millimeter mortars, grenades. We recovered 4,500 plus. And the remaining challenge is the 44 as of now. So if the percentage is the question with regard to the clearing of UXOs, it's 90% complete.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, MJ. ABS-CBN, Raya.
Good morning, sir. How can you guarantee the residents in Marawi City after the completion of the rehabilitation process will be on 2021?
We have a timetable. We have disseminated and distributed the the Marawi Master Development Plan, which we call the RICE Plan. During World War II, the rehabilitation of Europe was called the Marshall Plan. For Marawi, we are going to call it the RICE Plan. And RICE is an acronym that stands for Resilience, Identity, Sustainability, and Evolution. So that is the the four pillars of our rehabilitation, and everything will be anchored. All projects will be anchored on those four basic concepts of our rehabilitation. And to assure the Maranaos, we are on target, as I have been saying, and we are actually allowing them to rebuild those houses slightly destroyed as early as July of the year, provided they get a building permit or repair permit from the city government. Why is it important? Because when they apply for a repair permit, the city government has to ensure, check the building, check the house to ensure that the structural integrity of the particular building is safe. Because if not, they will not be allowed to repair or reconstruct their houses.
Sir, as of now, can we say that Marawi is now a safe place for everyone?
Now is the safest place siguro ever since. Today and years onward will be safest for Marawi City.
But the other residents are not yet allowed to go back to their houses because
For
of-
safety reasons. Yun ang ina-emphasize natin eh. Ang akala kasi ng iba, we are not allowing them because we simply do not like. We are preventing them because that is the duty of the state to ensure that residents are always safe. If one 500-pounder will explode right here, all of us will be dead. And it extends 600 meters, 650 meters from the center. And there are still 5 of these. And the big bombs, 260, and the 120-pounders, 49 less 5, we still have 44 big bombs in the most affected area. And that is for safety consideration. And of course, it defies logic for you to really go back there because there is no water, there is no electricity, there is no sewage treatment plant, there is no facilities to speak of. So that is why we are asking them not to rush government because if we will do it haphazard, the rehabilitation will not be good as we want it to be. We would like it be undertaken holistically so that at the end of the rehabilitation, we bring back a better Marawi City.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Can we have Zheng Zheng? CCTV. Yeah, sorry.
Hi, Secretary. Huang Zhenzhen from China Central Television. You just mentioned that the rehabilitation plan of Malawi City is no delay. So may I know about every key step of our timeline for that? The rehabilitation plan. You said that before this September, we will finish the rehabilitation or the clearance.
If you would like to have the timeline, can we please contact Christy over there? He can give you a one-page timeline of each project and the timeline as to when it will be completed. Some projects will be completed in 2020, others will be completed in 2021. We have about 24 projects in the most affected area, and we have a timeline for each project, but all of these will be completed by December of 2021.
Okay, thank you, sir. And I also would like to know before, you just mentioned like you will allow, after the clearance, you will allow the residents come back to their home. If their house is just lightly damaged, you will allow them to fix that themselves. So for the rehabilitation master plan of Malawi City before, you showed us, I think it's last year, it's like the government will in charge of the whole area to build a new Malawi City. But if, let's say, the residents can just fix their house themselves, so I would like to know, as of now, the master plan has a little bit change of that?
The entry of the residents will not affect whatsoever the rehabilitation plan. We are just allowing them, because of their desire to repair their houses, to go back to the most affected area and repair their houses earlier than our timetable. We would like them to go back on the middle of 2020, but because of their desire, we will allow them, provided they will be able to seek permits from the city government.
And I also would like to know, as of now, is there still any IDPs who live in the tents without a temporary shelter?
Outside Marawi City, all evacuation centers were closed already. We still have in Marawi City, and that's the priority to be cleared not later than June of the year. All tents or evacuation centers inside Marawi City will be closed by June 30 of the year.
And also, I know this week, the AFP, they bought some equipment from China to join the rehabilitation of Malawi City. So I would like to know why we choose Chinese equipment.
I think that's the preference of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Maybe it was through a soft loan. I do not know exactly. I think we better channel the question to the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
Yeah. And in that video, we just saw it mentioned like we got a lot of assistance from the foreign countries to help us to rebuild Malawi City. I know Chinese government from the very beginning, we give the heavy equipment to Malawi City for rehabilitation, and also I heard the news that maybe another batch of aid will come soon. So I would like to ask some comments from you. How do you see the significance of this kind of help?
Yes, last year, the government of China and government of Japan gave the government heavy equipment for Marawi City. And it was, these equipment were delivered last year, and it helped a lot in the clearing of debris along road networks in Marawi City. And those equipment are still being used by the local government units and DPWH in their projects. So we are very thankful to China, and of course we are thankful to Japan also.
So how do you looking forward for the future? Because I think it's 2 days before, the high-level Chinese delegation met with President Duterte, and he said to him that anything Philippine people needs, China is willing to help. So how do you look for the future? Like what kind of what kind of help you still need from Chinese government?
Well, as of now, there are projects in the pipeline, construction of bridges, road networks, sports complex, and Grand Parian Market, and 6 fire trucks from the Chinese government. And I was told that by the end of April, the President will go back there and some of the projects will be officially finalized for implementation. And we are very grateful to China for all these grants that would be given for the Philippines, not only for Marawi City.
Thank you so much, Secretary.
Thank you. We'll have Channel News Asia, Sherry.
Good morning, sir. Sir, what is the technology being used for the explosive clearing? The technology being used.
I do not know exactly, but in general, it has a drone that has the capability to conduct ground penetration as deep as 120 meters, and it can determine if there are some obstructions during that ground penetration that is not normal, maybe steel or whatsoever. The equipment can determine the probable determination of what that obstruction is.
All right, sir. You mentioned 60 billion is the overall budget. Would this be coming from the national budget, or that's combined with foreign aid?
Both. Combination of the GAA from the national budget, the pledges of other countries, and development assistance from other countries.
Sir, what's the percentage that will come from our budget and from foreign aid?
I do not know the percentage distribution, but it's the Department of Finance who has the record. Because we have been hearing pledges. Those are pledges, not yet given to the government. If we will factor it, if it's still a pledge, I think it would not be proper accounting.
Right. So far, how many are still in the Marawi evacuation centers?
I understand it's about 300 more or less families in Marawi City.
All right, sir. I think you are looking at having them closing them by June 30.
Yeah, by
but
June
what
30.
if their homes are not yet ready, or didn't receive the clearances to rebuild their homes? Can they stay there longer?
I don't think so. We are on target with regards to the completion of the temporary shelter units.
All right, thank
so
you.
they will be there by June 30, and we expect that 4,500 will be completed by the end of the year, December 31.
Okay, sir. But you mentioned earlier there are still no facilities, still no utilities. I suppose they will be back online by July?
By June 30, all in the evacuation centers in Marawi City will be closed, and they can be accommodated in the temporary shelter. And all these temporary shelter units will be available by December 31 of 2019, about 4,500 units, so that we can accommodate home-based IDPs.
Sir, isn't there a 6-month gap? Because you're by June 30, and yet these temporary shelters will be available by December.
For home base. For June 30 will be all evacuation centers will be closed in Marawi. There are 2 still existing evacuation centers in Marawi City. All these will be closed by June 30 because they can be accommodated in the temporary shelter. So we have available about 3,000 will be available to accommodate the home base by December 31.
Thank you. Last on my list is Nick K. But is there anyone else who wants to ask a question after? Okay, let's have Micah first.
Good morning. Morning, Secretary. Micah Flores of Nikkei. Sir, where are you at with the final blueprint of the development plan? I think you mentioned that it's with NEDA. So when will the master plan be publicly available? And what are the things that you're still polishing?
The final printing will start on April 15. We had a meeting last week. I received the official communication from NEDA yesterday, and I am transmitting this to World Bank today, so that for the finalization of the layout and printing of the Bangon Marawi CRRP, including the final version of the Master Development Plan, because it will be incorporated in the Bangon Marawi CRRP. So it will be given and disseminated to everybody by the end of April.
Sir, just a clarification because several numbers are coming up. In the AVP, the funding requirements for the rehabilitation is 67.8. Then you mentioned it's around 60 billion. I think around October or November, you floated a 64.6 billion number of. So what's the final funding
It's
requirement?
60 something. Yeah, 60, I think 60.3 or something.
And how much of the 60.3 has already been spent in what you're doing in Marawi now, in clearing of debris and the like?
Of that 60, we have used 5 billion in 2017, and for 2018, 6 billion, so 11 billion. So it's 11 billion.
Sir, last thing. In the EVP, it mentioned that 35.1 billion have been pledged by foreign governments. How much of it has been realized already or has been remitted to the national government that can be spent for the
I do
rehabilitation?
not know exactly if any amount was given to the Department of Finance as of yet.
Sir, last clarification. You mentioned you'll be closing the evacuation centers by June of this year.
June 30, yes.
And they'll be transferred to temporary shelters.
Yes.
Sir, do you still have a deficit in terms of the number of temporary shelters available? And if yes, what's the number of houses that you still need to build to accommodate all the...
Because there are still plenty of home-based IDPs, we have to accommodate them. And at the same time, this April, we will start the construction of the permanent housing units. Actually, the site development of the permanent site for permanent shelter has been ongoing, and I was told that construction of the housing units that would be donated by the San Miguel Foundation will start by end of April.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Jason from Radyo Pilipinas.
Hello, sir, from Radyo Pilipinas po. Sir, about sa mga evacuation centers po natin, are we still giving them family food packs?
The relief assistance being provided by DSWD has been ongoing. And in fact, the giving of 73,000, 20,000 for the whole families, about 32,000 families will commence on April 6, and additional 53,000 each family, those residing in the most affected area, will also commence on the same day.
Sir, we have an information na yung usual laman po ng mga family food packs is sardines. And I think last year po, nagkaroon po ng complaints from the grassroots na parang yun lang po yung palagi nilang nare-receive. Have there been efforts po to change kung ano po yung mga binibigay natin sa kanila, like for example, mga dried fish or anything na suitable po for our Muslim brothers po sa Marawi?
We are coordinating with the SWD. That is a very valid complaint because when they receive canned goods, they just sell it or barter in the form of other necessities that they would like to have. So we have been coordinating with the SWD so that if ever they can change the content of the relief goods, or if possible, if they can give it in cash.
Sir, last question po. Sir, since marami pong mga countries na gusto pong magbigay ng mga food packs or mga gamit po, meron po ba tayong mga preference kung ano po yung mga mas priority natin i-accept as of the meantime?
Well, yung basic necessities pa rin will come, especially those occupying in the evacuation centers. But I think it would be better if there would be assistance. It will be focused on business and livelihood aspect so that they can be productive in their wherever they are now.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to ask a question?
Sir,
Secretary, can you answer about the funding? I'm just curious, that's the task force is handling the Marawi for 3 years. And how do you channel the funding from the international about the transparency of their donations to this task force?
Actually, when we receive foreign support, it becomes part of the government budget. So it becomes, although not specifically identified, it forms part of the GAA. So for this year, we have so much for NDRRM fund, that is for calamity fund, and we are getting most of the budgetary requirements from the GAA or from the calamity fund of the government.
Thank you.
Another thing, it was mentioned in the Washington Post that not a single structure has been built. You have seen so many transitory shelter units. But if you are repairing, of course, in the most devastated area, there is no construction yet because we have to clear the debris, we have to clear the unexploded explosives. I hope we get our message across that if we will say there is not a single construction was made, if you will use it in the whole Marawi city, that is not accurate. But if you are repairing, of course, to the MAA, then we will accept that there is none because of safety considerations.
Thank you, Secretary. I agree with you, and I think that's a very important point, especially for our viewers and our overseas Filipinos and the rest of the country to fully understand that the rehabilitation of Marawi, there are two areas being worked on, the most affected area and the rest of the city. And we, as demonstrated and indicated by the Secretary, the clearing operations for unexploded ordnances is still ongoing in the most affected area. So we cannot build any structure, we cannot allow people to go back. So that area is still being restricted from residents. So we just want that to be very clear. But the efforts of the government and the task force has been continuing ever since it started in 2017. And outside, the barangays outside the most affected area is already back to normalcy. So residents have gone back to their houses and now living normal lives. But of course, those residents that are living or coming from the most affected area, those are the ones that are being accommodated in temporary shelters right now. And as mentioned by Secretary, the goal is to close down all the remaining evacuation centers by June 30th. And everyone will have to be in the temporary shelters. And by the end of the year, in December, the task force aims to accommodate all home-based IDPs. Home-based IDPs are the ones who do not stay in the evacuation centers but live with relatives, families in different locations. So we just want to clarify that, and I hope that will be understood by our people and the public in general. Secretary, do you have any last word before we...
Well, another important consideration. We were told by some experts, especially foreign experts, that rehabilitation of Marawi, considering the devastation that was the result of the siege, we were told that it will take normally 5 to 7 years. But we promised that we can do it in 3 to 4 years. That's why we are targeting December of 2021. And we were told also that debris management alone will take about 2 to 3 years. And we are saying we can do it in 8 months' time. So there is no empty promise. We are moving forward and we are on track. We are not delayed in as far as the final rehabilitation will be completed. Maybe we are delayed in as far as the allowing the residents to go back in rebuilding their houses. Maybe because we could not allow them and sacrifice their safety. Yun ang utmost consideration why the government is not allowing the residents to go back in the most affected area. With regards to the permanent shelter, the site development is ongoing. It started with the site development for the permanent shelter as promised as committed by the San Miguel Foundation to construct 2,000 permanent units. The actual construction of the permanent houses will commence by the end of April or first week of May. With regards to the commitment of UN Habitat to construct 1,500 permanent shelter, it's now, the site development is now ongoing also. So everything is moving. In fact, the government has been there even there was fighting. That as early as September of 2017, we were already conducting site development, that bullets were reaching the site development site in Barangay Sakunsongan. So never doubt the government's desire to fast-track the rehabilitation of Marawi City, because in the early recovery stage, we were there even the fighting was ongoing.
Thank you, Sec. I'd like to add something also on the one mentioned earlier on the complaints lodged by IDPs on social media. I just want to let everyone know that as far as formal complaints being lodged against any subcommittee or the task force itself, we have yet to receive any official or formal complaints. But what we are currently monitoring are information that are posted on social media. And how we do this is validate the issue. We work with the concerned subcommittee to validate if such issue is existing. And immediately, the subcommittee within the task force usually would respond directly to those concerns. And right now, our teams in the information management of the task force are monitoring these reports that are lodged in social media, because there's a lot of them. And of course, with the current conditions, with several families not being able to go back to the most affected area, of course, the issues will continue between and among communities, and we currently manage that, and the task force is addressing every issue. So thank you. And okay, before we close today's press briefing, we would like to remind everyone to follow Task Force Bangon Marawi on social media. We have a Facebook page, Task Force Bangon Marawi, and we are also in Twitter and on Instagram. And on a daily basis, we provide videos, stories, and all updates in relation to what's happening on the ground on a daily basis. So you may pick up information. You may also visit www.bangonmarawi.org for updates as our official website. And more than a year since the conflict began in Marawi, it is now even more necessary for us to unite in our endeavors to restore normal lives of our Maranao brothers and sisters. With that, we reiterate our call for the past year and the next. Sama-sama nating ibangon ang mas mapayapa at mas maunlad na Marawi City. Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga sa inyo lahat.